Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome to this week's episode. I have the esteemed, wonderful Lauren Bear here, who is a friend and a co-worker and a colleague. And she is an incredible meditation teacher, but she's also kind of witchy, and we're going to talk about that. Welcome, Lauren.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, good, good, good. Great to see you. So I also have obviously surname envy because I would also like to have an animal as my surname. So like I would probably be Jeremy Crow or yeah, maybe
That makes
Jeremy.
sense with your logo. You're going to have to tell me the story behind that sometime.
I absolutely will. Okay, so for all of the wonderful listeners and watchers out there, let's firstly, Lauren's things are witchy and meditation. So she's a brilliant meditation teacher with a kind of a witchy angle. And quite frankly, I know a lot of women who love witchiness, but many people don't necessarily know what that is. So if you could just describe the general territory of what is it to be witchy?
A lot of the women who are finding their home in that kind of language and that kind of community are women who are reconnecting with the traditions of our ancestors, and in particular, our feminine ancestors. And so it's not really Wicca. There are different ways. Sometimes people will connect with different mythologies from different parts of the world. For me, it's more Taoism. And but it's a lot of returning to that wisdom and
Mm,
reconnecting with that wisdom that was often really buried and
mm.
disparaged. So it's bringing that forth with us.
That's beautiful. And how much of it does contain some of the kind of, call it, as Eckhart Tolle would call it, the pain body of hundreds of years of burnings and persecution and misogyny and patriarchy in Europe?
Yeah. I would say that's such a big part of it because in a way we're healing our lineage
Yes.
because the wisdom of women has been so discarded and disregarded. And even hearing something like old wives tales, it's built into that it's not something that's useful. It's just some sort of silly thing that those women do. And often we're finding out that the things women did were really brilliant, and they were
Mm,
often fairly revolutionary ideas for their time. And so no
mm.
wonder they were suppressed, because that was really threatening to the powers that be. And so we have, generations and generations, like literally thousands of years of women being told that they weren't valuable. And it's time to stop believing that story.
And so for men who like witchiness, what are they to do? Should they just admire from the sidelines, or do they have an option to be witchy too?
I say that men are as harmed by all of this patriarchy as women are. We've got all that toxic masculinity specifically because the divine feminine has been suppressed and disrespected. And so men being able to follow their own true path is often not easily accessible, because if it's considered even the slightest bit feminine, then that's not okay. And
Mm.
expressing emotions, and we become really toxic when we can't experience our full spectrum of emotion. But it's like men are told there's only this one subset that you're allowed to have, and they tend to be the really awful ones, like anger and aggression. And so men are harmed by this just as much as women, and so they need to be actively bringing that feminine forward for themselves as well.
Where does witchiness fit into a context of social justice and making this world a better place for everyone?
I think one of the things we have to be really mindful of is keeping it intersectional, because a lot of times these women's movements can forget about more than half of the planet. And so that social justice aspect of it needs to be remembering not to center white women all the time. And just really being willing to believe people, especially women of color,
Mm.
when they say something has happened, because not believing people is one of the biggest epidemics we have. I mean, it happens to women across the board. Like, let's say there's an assault or something like that. If that he said, she said is automatically just saying, well, we don't know if we can believe you, because he'll say something right there. It's built into the, we don't really think we can believe you.
Mm.
And women of color in particular are just not heard. And
Mm.
so we really need to make sure that we're hearing them in all of this.
You are a meditator of lineage, and you've been doing this for a long time, and you teach it. What,
Yes.
there's obviously a lot of meditation out there, but I know that you've got a very particular angle, which is helping people succeed at meditation. Will you talk a little bit about what lights you up around meditation and teaching it, and how you teach?
One of the things that really lights me up, because I've got a science background, is when I'm able to kind of weave together ancient traditions with modern science. So integrating those is something that is really fascinating, and research is starting to catch up with what ancient traditions have been saying the whole time. And so all of the new studies coming out on meditation and the different benefits from different techniques, so that you can really fine tune what you're doing with your practice depending on what benefits you're looking for. So
Mm,
that is so fascinating to me. And of course, when you have somebody who believes that they couldn't meditate, find out that they can, and they've just been fed a lot of misinformation about meditation, like that's
mm,
always kind of a magical moment.
mm. So that's a big thing in your work, is making meditation both accessible but then successful. In other words, showing, because I mean, we've got mutual friends and they all rave about your courses. And I feel like you've taught them that they believe that they can meditate, and that they can meditate well. Um,
Yeah.
is that what you find with your students in general? Is, yeah, what do you do? How does that work?
I think about this a lot, and I think that what makes my meditation courses different is that we focus on overcoming the obstacles. And
Mm,
those misconceptions are among the biggest obstacles that people have. So clarifying people's expectations so
mm,
that they aren't set up to fail. So that's, I think, where I really differ. I think a lot of people just focus on teaching the technique, but if you're not teaching people how to overcome the obstacles, then the technique isn't much good.
well, I mean, that's it. Because if there's one thing that you'll hear more than anything else about meditation is, I'm definitely failing at meditation. People are like, I'm thinking, therefore I fail. And so
Yeah,
I
or I
find
can't clear
myself,
my mind, I can't do this. Yeah.
so one area where our work overlaps is around mantra, and that's a huge part of your work too. Will you take me through how and why that's important in what you do? Yeah, tell me about mantra.
You mean using the mantra?
Mm,
One of the things you see a lot of is mindfulness meditation, and it's a really hard technique that really discourages people. And so, besides giving you that beautiful foundation, mantra meditation also gives your mind a place to rest. That monkey mind is looking for something to attach to. And
mm,
so, it makes mantra meditation one of the easier techniques without sacrificing any of the benefits. One thing that I kept coming across from Eastern teachers, since I studied in Asia and with Asian teachers, I kept hearing that Western meditation training was missing some really important ingredients,
mm,
and that those ingredients were like giving people a boat without a map or any way, like you don't have an oar, you don't have a motor, you have no way to make this boat go anywhere. And
mm,
so I was kind of confused because they weren't telling me what that missing piece was. So finally, I went through some training to become a lay Buddhist teacher. And the teacher flat out told me, and I was like, oh, there we go. That's the missing piece. And so what the missing piece was is that for meditation, you need to have a foundation of morality.
mm,
And morality is a pretty universal thing, right? We've all got ideas of how to be a good person. And so you need to have that foundation. And with morality, then you can have generosity. And it's important to think of this generosity almost like Ubuntu. It needs to be generosity with boundaries. So you're not giving more than you can afford to give. And
mm,
once you have that foundation built out of morality and generosity, then you can have a solid meditation practice. And you can easily think of people who are famous meditators who are not very nice people.
mm,
Yeah, they were given a boat without an oar or a map.
mm,
And so they don't have that foundation to build their practice on. And so the mantra I teach is imagine hearing the word centered with the in breath, and then imagine hearing the word kind with the out breath.
mm,
And so knowing that you're cultivating that foundation of morality and generosity when you're
mm.
doing that mantra, it creates a really lovely experience.
That's beautiful. Um, yeah, that's beautiful. I just want to say to everyone, please do check out Lauren's work. There's a link below. Um, that'll take you to the homepage of her website. She's got free courses and paid, beautiful paid facilitated courses. And I really recommend you work with her. And especially if you want to get the feeling of, actually, I want to, like, being good at it, or just actually succeeding at and enjoying meditation instead of it being a chore, please go and work with Lauren.